want you guys to focus on, you've got this sheet now, it's got shading in it. There are no graph squares on this sheet, and there's a reason for it. All right. I took a picture of this image, put it on the sheet so you can see it. I made it the exact same size as the sketch that you should have done up to this point in time. Right now, if you are finished with this project, obviously you're going to see a blank space up and here on the paper too. You don't have to draw anything on this sheet. This sheet is for you to use for this drawing. If you have this sketched out, you're ready to start the next phase of drawing. Drawing is done in parts. The first element of art, you're doing lines. You sketch lines by noticing the difference between dark and light. That's the next phase of what we're going to do, what I'm going to teach you. So I'm teaching you these things in sections. Section number 1, I gave you lines, a line drawing, this eye line drawing, to sketch in the boxes in the graph. So you could recognize how lines work, see how the lines work, and sketch them in the right spots based on comparing and contrasting to lines that you see everywhere here and here, going back and forth. Now, the next part of it is taking that value study that I had you do and adding it into a drawing like this. So you take the value study, the shading and learning how to shade, and you add it to an eye sketch that you've done. The next phase after that will have you guys taking a sketch like this that's graphed, one that's shaded in, and first sketching out all the lines. And when I sketch out lines, I want you to see this because I did it for you first. But if you notice, I sketch lines wherever dark meets light. So if you compare here, this is my original sketch, this is my original sketch. I gave them both to you so you could draw them. If you notice, a line right here is actually the line of where the shadows go. If you draw the edge of shadows and not things that you think you see, you will draw better. So when I sketched this, you'll notice that this area here that's all blank is an area that's going to end up being dark. In here, this area that's all dark through here is an area that was sketched out here. You'll notice, and I forgot to make this little line here and this little line here, so I've got it now. You'll notice this sketched edge here would be the white reflection in the eye. This edge here is the dark, so on and so forth. And even if you'll notice an eyelash, I sketched the outside edge of an eyelash. So there's an eyelash that's thick, that's combined. It's sketched on the outside edge. That's where you see that. That's where you guys draw it. Now, I'm going to take this and I'm going to start by showing you what to do for this, because this is the part that takes your drawings from good sketches. That's a good sketch. I think most of you probably, if you've done this, have done a good sketch. Okay? Takes it from a good sketch to a good drawing, a good shaded drawing. Okay? And that's what I want all of you guys to get to. What I want you to notice is also things that were sketched in here, like the eyebrow. We all know it's an eyebrow. I know it's an eyebrow, but I never sketch a whole outside edge of the eyebrow, because one of the things when I see students do this, they sketch where the eyebrow goes. If they sketch a line all the way around the eyebrow, they never get rid of it when they're done. So what I do in contrast to that is I sketch out where some of the lines of the eyebrow are. You've got a line, I put a line, I show where some of these lines are, and I will show you how to shade that in just a second here. I'm going to start with that area first. So I'm going to turn my paper sideways here, and what I'm going to do, I'll put this paper on here so you guys can kind of watch. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by giving this entire area here a light shade. All right, all the way down to where the eye is. If you notice the way I'm holding my pencil, I kind of got it sideways. I'm just shading the area in, nice and soft. If I go out of the box just a little bit here while I'm shading, it's not a big deal. The point is to get this area shaded in nice and smooth. I don't want to see, while doing this, any of the lines that I have shading, so I don't want to be all crazy with my pencil stroke. So as I shade this area in through here, I'm just going to do up to here. Why I eliminated the graph out of this is because I don't want you to think of the graph at all when you shade. There's a problem with graphing with, or excuse me, with shading with a graph. When people shade with a graph, they tend to stop. I'll show you in a section here. I'll ruin this so you can see what's wrong. But give me a second to first show you how to do it the right way. Okay? Because I don't want you to do it the wrong way. I want you to understand why shading in the graph squares is so bad. All right? So right now, it's really light. You guys can hardly see what I've done there. I'm going to take my blending stick. Oops. I got a brand new sharpener here for you guys. I bought a few of them this weekend. Take my blending stick, make sure I've got it good and ready to go. Again, I also bought multiple other blending sticks for you guys to use. And I'm going to start by blending in this entire background area first. So I'm going to kind of go up and over, and I'm going to hope that I don't blend out my sketch there too much. And you're going to see it should be getting darker for you on screen. And I go over where the eyebrow is going to be. What I see a lot of times that looks weird is people don't shade where the eyebrow is going to be. Your skin is behind your eyebrow. So you're going to have that shadow there. If you don't shade behind the eyebrow and then you just put lines for the eyebrow, but it's pure white behind the eyebrow, it looks weird. Okay? It's an odd looking thing. I then take this and I kind of go back through and I darken my lines again that I had that I can see. I can see these lines right there. I don't know how well you can see them there, but this is the easy thing about how to do an eyebrow. I take and I make a whole bunch of lines going this way. I'm going to go right up and off the edge. I'm not going to care about that right now. I always start with the line down here and I pull up. And you should see the eyebrow come to life there. So if I turn this way, you should see an eyebrow started to form there. So the eyebrow's been formed, okay? I'm going to turn this back, and what I want to do next is I'm going to put a little bit darker of a line through here. I'm going to look at this line right here, which is your eyelid. And I'm going to just shade that a little bit more right here and blend it just a little bit more right there, just to give it a little bit darker value. I'm then going to come through, turn my picture the right way, and I'm going to look at the different areas, like this eyelash where I've got sketch here, and I'm going to just shade it in dark. This eyelash that I have sketched here, and you guys might have a hard time seeing what I already have sketched here, because I'm sure for you right now, these areas aren't showing up on screen up there. I can see them where I'm at. You'll be able to see them on your paper. So I can see my already pre-sketched eyelashes there. I'm not just recreating them. I'm not redrawing them. I'm going over what I have. Just so you guys know that when you get to yours and not go, oh my God, I got to redraw it. You don't have to. They're here. And all I'm going to do is go back through and darken them. I darken them after I shade or blend this area. If I darken these all first, if I make them all really good and dark, and then I blend in your eyebrow, I'm going to just smear them all, and I have to go back and do it again. Okay? So if I take time to come back through and do these, I'm going to be getting everything in the eyelash that needs to be in the eyelash, and only those areas in the eyelash, so on and so forth. And if I do this entire thing, I would shade it in. Now I'm going to kind of move on because I don't want you to have to sit and watch the entire eye sketch, it would probably take me about 25 to 30 minutes to shade the entire thing in. And I don't want to take the time because I want you guys to get started on that. What I am going to show you next is into this area, and then I'm going to do a section over here wrong for you. So you see how I don't want you to do it, okay? What I want you to do next is think about the way the eye goes, and I want you to start shading in your shadow of the eye. So if I do this the right way, nice and dark, shading in this entire area, this entire shadow of the eye. I'm going to be nice and dark with it. Kind of go up in the eyelashes some. I would continue these eyelashes up. Like I said, right now, with me demonstrating this for you, I don't want to take the time to do the entire thing. I just want to get you started. So I would shade this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to bring the shadow down into the eye where you see some of these shadows. I actually do it from this spot that I'm working on right here. All right. Let me come across here. And with the blending stick again, I'm going to start smoothing that area out. With me smoothing this area out through here, what I'm going to do is your eye has shadows in it. The white of the eye is never perfectly white. If you guys don't know that, it's true. The only spot where you typically see a pure white spot, surprisingly, is in the colored part of your eye or the iris when you get a perfect reflection from a light. Okay? Other than that, you're going to see a shadow that's going to make your eye look rounded. And I'm going to do that by pulling down the shading from this down into the eye some. I'm not going to actually hand shadow that. I'm going to pull it down, and I'm going to kind of bring that shadow down. I'm going to leave it a little bit whiter through here, but darker along the edges. A little whiter through here. I'm going to bring it down. So now it's going to have that three-dimensional rounded look. Once I'm done with that three-dimensional rounded look, I'm going to come back, and the next thing I'm going to start doing is shading in the dark of this eye in this way. I'm going to bring the shading up. And I'm going to blend it into that top because you'll notice it blends right into it. That's typical of your eye. And what I want to show you, I'm going to get through here. Around the very edge of the eye, I'm just going to take it and go the same direction as the curve. And through here, I'm going to kind of pull it in with my lines. Now, I actually do the shading in the eye the exact same way that I just did the shading through here. Okay, I'm going to shade this in. I'm going to pull out some of these colors through here. What I'll show you then is, just a second here. I'm not going to go around the entire iris and pupil, but as you see here, what I would then do is come through, and I'll take a little bit sharper one and come through, blend this area. I'm going to kind of pull the shading out a little bit. I'm going to darken the eye. I'm going to pull the shading out a little bit. And I'm going to shade this part by doing this. And if you see in the eye, it looks like little lines that come out. A lot of eyes look this way. I'm just going to shade a little darker in those areas to give that effect right there, the exact same effect that you have in this area that you have there. All of this is done through shading dark, blending stick, shading dark, blending stick, shading dark, blending stick. This, if you do it by looking at this picture, will look smooth. But what I want you guys to see is I see a lot of students do this, and this is how you make it look bad. Okay? Students that'll go, okay, I'm shading square by square, which is I never want you to ever shade square by square, where they'll shade and they'll stop at the edge of a square. Every single thing that they do, they shade and they stop at the edge of the square. Sometimes I see them shade and stop. Still the exact same shading, but they've changed the direction that they shade. Okay, you might not notice it yet. You will in a second here. Shading square by square, stopping at the edge of the square. I don't want you to do this, and I'm demoing it so you see what not to do when I see students shade every single square separately than the next square. It starts to look like what I call checkerboard art. Okay, it looks like each square starts to separate itself and look totally different, and it looks like a checkerboard of art. Okay, it doesn't look good. The point of me doing this with no graph, this with a graph, sketch with a graph right now. Once you've got the sketched out graph, use this to shade your sketch right here. Once you've got that shaded in, make sure you don't shade in square by square. Focus on everything. If there's, you notice I shaded underneath the eyebrow, I shaded underneath the eyelashes, and then put them back on. If I were to first, here you go, if I were to first do this, I do my nice line for the eyelash, I do my nice line for the eyelash, I get them all nice and dark. This is all dark up here, going up into this area. And then I go, oh yeah, I've got to shade this. So now I put this down to shade this. What's going to end up happening, as soon as you go to blend, you just smear and actually make darker an area that shouldn't be as dark. By me putting those dark lines down first, that area will be much darker than it should be. So you shade it in first, then put the dark lines over top. Okay? This is what I want you working on. What I want done, I want the shading on this done. I want all projects that you've done up to this point. Your value study, the shading circles and the boxes, the eyes that you sketched, and the shading to the eye, I want it done by the end of the class on Wednesday. So it is homework for you also. If you have not gotten to the point where you've even got this sketched, you need to get that far. You need to get it sketched. Sketch first before you shade. Do not try to shade before you sketch. It'll throw you off. Do I have any questions by anybody? Okay, I'm going to turn the lights back on and let you guys get started then.